Hey, this is Paul with LSP Data, and on my series of showing you how to actually get real estate data and get ahead of the competition, this time we're going to be touching on code violations and how you can request a list of code violations from your city for free. So I've touched on things like, USPS or 311 violations or service requests. So make sure you check those videos as well. And also remember that we also have this data available. So you can also order data from us. Same list that you're getting from PropStream, we can also replicate them, right? It is our own data, and you'll find different kinds of data sets from us that you will not find in other places because we curate our own data, whereas a lot of other companies are just data resellers. So that's why I'm making these videos, to show you where a lot of this data comes from, where you can get it yourself actually. So again, code violations, let's jump into it. So depending on the city that you're live in, right? I'll touch on Texas, and this should apply for all the state of Texas. Texas has the Public Information Act, and I think a lot of states or counties nationwide have something similarly. So basically, a short summary of this is that as a taxpayer, you're entitled to request certain data from your local city or county. So so basically for us, what this means is that we can actually request the code violations for, in this case, the city of Houston. But if you search for this, as you can see, you're going to come across, Texas, same thing for Dallas. And again, depending on the videos that you like me to make, I can touch on those specific counties or cities. But in this case, Houston, right? And basically what we're going to do is we're going to request a list of code violations, right? So if I were to do this from scratch, make sure you set up an account, right? Email, password combination. This is for free, and which is really amazing. So just make sure you fill in that information. And once you do have an account, you can log back in. And now we can actually jump into requesting the information. So as you can see, you're entitled to a lot of information, and I'm not going to go through that, but for the purposes of the code violation, we're looking into Department of Neighborhood Public Information. And as you can see, it's the Inspections and Public Service, right? So there's quite a bit of information here. So take a minute to go through other categories that might be relevant. I know a lot of people in the past used to use this similar type of request for water shutoff, and because of privacy laws, that's changed quite a bit. But for code violations, let's continue. So select this. And basically, once you come across this, right, it's gonna prompt you for pretty much a form, right? What I would suggest is, and I'll add this as a template to the YouTube description. So basically what I would say is, I'm requesting a list of code violations for the past 5 months. Typically, I try to do it every 6 months because it is a lot depending on the recurrence that you want to do this, but I do it typically every 6 months. And I'm asking here for a list of code violations with high grass, electrical violation, mold, and whatnot, right? And I'm finding my own properties. This is the exact process that I follow. So as for this, the turnaround time is about 7 to 14 days. So if you get lucky, you might get it quicker. And also, I don't know if there's any limitations about how often you can ask for this, but I typically ask once every 6 months or so. You want to make sure you select electronic and agree to the terms of use. Pretty much once you do it, that's it. Submit it. Later on, once let's say time has passed, you typically going to get an email with a link that sends you back to the web request. And basically, they're going to get back with you. And what they typically do is they attach each month. And in this case, let's say we want to open, for late last year, a spreadsheet, which I already opened here. And basically, they're going to give you a list that might be a bit intimidating at first, but I'll walk you through it so that way it makes it a little bit easier. So they're going to give you the status of the inspections, right? A lot of those stem from 311 service request, or a neighbor calling about or complaining about their next door neighbor and whatnot. So after that, the city would create a case, right? And later they're going to send an inspector. And this is where that data typically comes from, right? Otherwise, a lot of inspectors, they have full-time jobs or just driving around the city and then seeing what code violations they can identify, because let's be honest, the city makes money from a lot of those code violation fines, right? There are various code violations that we can look into, right? For the sake of time, I've actually made a list, and again, I'll add this to the YouTube video, but I made a list of some of the code violations that I was able to identify that also correlated to the USPS vacancy list and other data identifiers that I use. And basically, to give you an example, for example, this one is a vacant building, collapsed structure, and there's a lot of things that you can easily go in here, filter by, and it'll give you the list of all the properties, right? And as you can see, it's going to give you the address, the zip code, and the property type as well. This is going to help quite a bit to identify with the parcel data, right? And again, if you're used to list source already of PropStream, you're going to realize that here you don't get all the information that you need, but you do get the address, right? And most importantly, you do get the parcel ID. So at this point, you can go to your local appraisal district site, right? Or you can pull this, the exact same parcel ID within list source or PropStream. If they're up to date, they're going to show you this information should match, right? And at that point, you can identify who the owner is and whatnot, and go through the standard skip tracing and all that information, right? So again, if you want to order those lists from us as well, we can provide all that information, right? Just sharing that out there. Again, you have plenty of different code violations, and the cool thing about this is that you can also sort them by open cases that are still open, and it gives you when the inspection happened, right? And at this point, you can take it into Google Maps, Street View, or something similarly, right? To get an idea if that hasn't changed, right? And again, just saving time. I've gone through this type of list before extensively, right? So the other cool thing is that I can tie this information with the appraisal district, right? So like I mentioned, this is typically the information that you would get from PropStream, list source, and whatnot, which again we provide as well. But we also add a lot of context as far as what is the reason of the house is vacant, right? In this case, providing the violation code, tying that to the USPS vacancy. So at this point, we're confirming 100% that the property is vacant. And obviously, we have a lot of other exclusive data sources, like the 311, which I touched on previous videos, that we can add a lot more context. So for you as an investor, or if you're doing wholesaling, right, you have a clear picture of what's going on with that property, right? Without just going into a GUI and selecting, vacant and not knowing when that happened, one, right? And two, again, everyone's blasting through that same platform, right? So you need to give yourself a competitive advantage. And the other thing is that most of you are looking for motivated sellers, right? So what else do you need? There's code violations. There's probably a good sense of motivation there, or sense of urgency. So that helps quite a bit. I've closed a few deals myself using our own data, and that's the beauty of understanding this data and being able to put it together, right? So again, I'll add this list to the YouTube link or the YouTube note. And also, I want to remind you, we've also put together, my team and I put together a list, basically a spreadsheet that has both the service 311 service requests and also some of the code violations nationwide. So this is going to help you find your state or city a bit quicker, right? And it's going to take you directly to that page or download source. And again, most cities should include that. So make sure you, do your due diligence to search for it. And one last time, we can help with any of this data. So reach out to us if you have any questions, or let's jump on a Zoom call so we can show you our offerings, right? So lastly, like I said, this parcel ID is going to be the same thing as the taxpayer ID tied to that particular property, right? So whether you're looking even on the MLS, right, whether you're looking through Zillow or HAR in Houston or other areas, this should give you tied to that property. Just in general, let's see if this property shows up anywhere in Google Maps. Which again, it might or might not, but a lot of times, if the property has been vacant for a while, it will probably show you, and depending on how often Google Maps updates their information, right? This is August 2022. Many times you can see whether that property is truly vacant or just verified through Google Street Views. Again, this is not the best way to verify, but just to give you an idea, or for me to show you an example, right? Again, this is free. Requested. It might take 7 to 14 days, but again, that's going to give you that competitive advantage or that intimate knowledge about the property that you're interested in. And again, once you do find that person, you have a better idea of the situation of the house, right? So that way, when you're asking the property owner, they might tell you that the property is pristine and there's no issues with it, but of course, you know that there is some sort of code violation that happened, right? And yeah, that's it. If you have any questions, comment below. Let me know if you want to make any other videos. We understand data very well, and we understand the context of looking at it from a wholesaler's point of view or a real estate agent, estate investor point of view, right? So that's what we do, and that's what our expertise is in. So reach out to us if you have any questions or any help. And yeah, I'll look forward to seeing you in the next video.